forgot to do it with the intro.
So welcome everyone. Thank you so much for staying. Thank you so much for staying after the wonderful service we just had. It was really nice. So I thought I would start off by just reading a little bit of the first chapter because that's where the stage is set. And it's a spiritual novel. I wrote it because I had all these self-help books and I wanted a book that showed me how to use this stuff. How do you take all this stuff and plug it into your life? And so I thought, well, why don't I write some of my story? Because you have to write what you know about. I'm a beginner author. I don't know how to write a book. So it just happened. So the name of the book is, you'll know it when you see it, Following the Magical Path of Intuition. And so it begins with chapter 1, no problem can be solved from the same level of consciousness that created it. Albert Einstein. So the date is Saturday, September 3rd, 2016. The view was breathtaking as Sally Chambers drove into the Rocky Mountains. A river ran alongside the highway, flowing downward toward eastern Colorado. Cars stopped along the highway to watch the few mountain goats that came to graze on the roadside vegetation. The mountains scraped the crystal clear blue sky, some with a hint of white on their peaks where the snow had already fallen. As she rounded the corner, a pristine mountain lake came into view, her kind of quiet place. No cars on the lake, no one on the shore. She pulled in, parked, and retrieved her beach chair and placed it on the shoreline. A few of the aspen trees began to turn from their summer green to autumn gold. She loved how the leaves looked as they danced in the light breeze, which formed ripples on the lake. Sitting down, she closed her eyes and listened to the stillness, grateful for the gift of solitude. It's moments like this that allow for that still, small voice to speak and be heard. Years of dedication prove that. Years of asking, seeking, and knocking always brought the inspiration and truth she needed to move through her life with courage and a sense of adventure. Armed with a strong connection to her intuition, she dedicated her life to seeking the truth through meditation, prayer, and study. She thought of herself as a nun without a nunnery, being out in the world instead of retreating from it. Her thoughts settled back on the events of the morning. She had been dusting her living room with the radio on an oldie station when a Led Zeppelin song came on. Of course, the volume had to be turned way up to appreciate their brilliance. It was what happened after the song was over that had her attention. An advertisement for retirement planning blared into the room before she could turn the radio down. Normally, she would have turned it off. This time, she knew to listen. There was an immediate interest. Her marriage ended several decades ago. She made a conscious decision to remain single, knowing that one day she would have to address retirement without a partner. Looks like it's time to begin to plan for my retirement. I'll be at a retirement age in a few years, and I want to be able to retire, she thought as she reached for her journal in the side pocket of the beach chair. She began to write. I've lived an unconventional life. Retirement is bound to continue in a similar fashion. I know it's time to start to put together a doable plan. My plan, not what retirement planning professionals advised. I don't have any foundational investments, no real estate, no 401k, no pension, or nest egg. It sounds bleak, or the greatest challenge. Either way, I'm all in. Sally breathed the crisp autumn air. As she began to craft her unique retirement plan, certain questions arose, such as, what things do I have? She began her list with, a life fully lived. I've traveled to all 48 contiguous states on road trips, just me and my intuition guiding me along well before I had a cell phone. Solo traveling helped to build up my strong connection with my intuition, which in turn built up my courage. I'll make that my second entry, my intuition. These two things alone are priceless. In my defense, I didn't build for my future because I needed all of my money at the moment to fund my travels. It was my tuition money to cultivate my relationship with my intuition. Self-love must be next. The ability to meet my emotional and spiritual needs came from that self-love. The love of my friends, family, and community would be next. The next one, would be another. The next one would be love. I'm feeling very wealthy. She knew her list would look completely different. She realized it was best not to compare herself with others her age, as doing so felt like a surefire way of getting derailed. Instead, she decided to keep Thine Eye single, focusing on the feeling of gratitude for what her life had been about and for what she had accomplished. She wrote the words, "I am uniquely me," at the bottom of her list. She was ready to begin to focus on the actual plan. Her favorite prayer came to mind, "I want what is right." As she wrote it down, she added, "for my retirement." This made perfect sense to her because in her mind, everything would come from this one thought. Wanting what is right aligns her with the Christ-like within, the presence of God at her center, connecting her divine and human nature. She continued writing, adding the words, "I call upon my Christ within," to ask for help crafting her plan. Laying her pen down, she closed her eyes and began breathing into the feeling of the prayer. She was transported back to the first time she intuitively heard the statement, to call upon her Christ within. She was in her mid-20s and felt overwhelmed with a recent move to a new state. The words came to her as she was driving down a busy street. This began a lifetime of asking for and receiving help. Very often the help came as a creative idea, which once implemented brought her in direct contact with miracles. People, things, or events would show up, sometimes in the most miraculous of ways. The next thought came to mind was the idea of being as debt-free as possible. It dropped into her consciousness and began to take root. Don't create any new debt. Contemplating this brought a flood of ideas, which she quickly wrote down. Keep track of my spending, create a budget based on my earnings, keep my current car after the loan is paid off, create an emergency fund, be in the present time with money. Paying interest on credit cards is not in my best interest. Get rid of my debit card. Use cash when buying groceries and gas. And don't discuss this with anyone. Sally began to think about what she had written down. She realized that when the credit card statements arrived, the money spent was already in the past, paying for last month's purchases. Moving forward, she would ensure that each expenditure was immediate and in the present, avoiding reliance on credit cards and the delayed payment they represent. The idea of using cash for groceries is a good one based on the way she shops. If she needed a loaf of bread and walked into the grocery store with her debit card, she believed with 3 bags of groceries. Her new strategy would allow her to only take in enough cash for the loaf of bread. She could see how it would be a terrific way to keep her word to herself about following a budget. Not discussing this with anyone makes sense because new ideas and plans need time to germinate like a new seed in the soil. Talking about it could release the energy it needs to grow. "I love this process," she announced out loud. "I feel like I'm heading in a new direction. I'm empowered by it. But this must be phase 1 of my initial plan. I'm sure once I begin to implement it, new ideas will show themselves. I am ready." Feeling complete with her plan for the moment, she changed the direction of her thoughts to writing in her journal. "I've had a great life. I'm so grateful for all the tools I've gained along the way. My spiritual toolbox has grown over the years as I've addressed and healed stuff from my childhood, early adulthood, and even things happening today. I've worked hard to overcome all the childhood abuse that left its marks on my belief system about who I am and how far I expected myself to go during my lifetime. Thank goodness my ability to use each appropriate tool got me to the other side, to the healing that brought peace of mind and the truth that eventually set me free. Here I am using one of my first tools in my toolbox, journaling. We've had a good run, my pen and paper. So many times I've poured my heart out, wanting, sometimes demanding to know the truth about what I'm experiencing. These ask, seek, and knock moments prove to me that the meaning of these words is real. There were always answers to my questions, even if it took them a while to present themselves. It could come as a lyric in a song on the radio, a comment I heard in passing, or even signs on the highway. My favorite ones are the audible messages I hear from within me. The buildup of gratitude allowed Sally to keep writing. I have to say my next tool is the prayer, "Be still and know that I am God." I've repeated this prayer so many times it automatically begins when I need it. I'm in awe of how the command to be still is spoken to that part of my mind that loves to create dramatic stories. If my mind could be likened to a puppy, the be still command would translate to sit. The know I am God speaks to the Christ within me to help me unify with its presence. The knowing that comes because of the repeated use of the prayer could come gradually or all at once. Remember how I knew about my divorce before it was even discussed? How about the time I realized I was the problem at work and was able to resolve the issue peacefully? The more I saw results, the more I trusted my tools. I guess it's like physically lifting weights. My trust muscle gradually grew stronger, building confidence and courage. How else could I have traveled all those miles during my road trips alone? Courage and adventure go hand in hand. If I'm thinking about my toolbox, what are some of the other ones that have consistently saved my butt in this human experience? Meditation. So many times I've felt embraced, loved, and grounded after a session. Affirmations would be next. Wonderfully crafted sentences that replace negative thoughts. I have repeated them silently or spoken them aloud. Either way, they bring relief from traveling down the boo-hoo road, blaming others for what happens to me and from worry. A sense of humor would be next. They cut through the most debilitating of feelings. If I had a slogan that describes my life, it would be, shift one area of your life and it will shift another. And before you know it, your life is full of shift. Armed with these and the rest of my tools, they've enabled me to get to the other side of negative thought patterns, judgments, and erroneous thinking. The result is a change in my thinking, which creates a change in attitude, followed by my change in my actions, which changes the situation. It's really an internal dance with the divine. Just a few more pages here. Laying her journal aside, she closed her eyes, took a long, deep breath, and began to concentrate on her breathing while internally asking for help. Her breath led the way as she let go further into the moment, receiving the calming energy while deeply listening. A vision of a woman walking along the seashore began to play in her mind. The woman reached down to pick up a beautiful shell, and the words, "For it is in giving that one receives," concluded her vision. Remaining quiet, with her eyes still closed, Sally began to allow the feeling of the message she received to expand. It had a different feel to it than one of her own thoughts. There was a feeling of wholeness that was visceral. It felt as if the energy behind the vision merged with her own. She felt lighter, more present. "Thank you for this wonderful vision and message," she said to the source from which it came. "I've heard this before. I'll keep it in the forefront of my mind in relation to my retirement." She enjoyed a few more hours of peace and quiet before heading back to her car to return home. Reaching for her car door, she noticed a large brown object off to the right, stepping into the lake. It was far enough away that she wasn't frightened and grew more excited when she realized it was a moose. "I know this beautiful animal is to be respected. I'm glad I was just leaving to give it all the space it needs. I wonder what the spirit animal totem meaning means for moose," she asked. She discovered the Native American tradition when she first moved to Colorado. It teaches that animals have certain characteristics that can be of help to humans at different phases in their lives. She asked her smartphone what the totem meaning was for moose and was excited to read it meant strong, elegant, confident, and that one has the skills to attain most of one's goals. Oh. My message for today, among others. What a fantastic way to finish my time here. So that is the part of chapter 1 I wanted to read, and then setting the stage for what happens in the book. I'm just going to read just 2.5 pages of chapter 2. What lies behind you and what lies in front of you pales in comparison to what lies inside of you. Ralph Waldo Emerson. This is the next day, Sunday, September 4th. The morning's light streamed in through her bedroom window, waking her. She had slept in longer than usual. She noticed as she awakened, she was repeating, "For it is in giving that one receives." Memories began to unfold of a dream she had during the night in which her deceased grandfather approached her, telling her to pay attention to her innate gifts of organizing and cooking. As she wrote this in her dream journal, the realization began to set in that as she gave of her gifts, she would receive as a natural outcome. It made it extra special that it was her grandfather who brought this important message. She had loved him dearly. She took a moment to allow this new information to take root. Her organizing strategy began to unfold. It made sense to her to choose 2 practice clients to begin with instead of working with strangers. She'd rather help people she knew for free to hone her skills. It just felt right. Sally suddenly remembered that her friend Dawn Stevens needed to move out of her house to move into a new townhouse. She had made a mental note to call her later in the day to see if she had started sorting and packing for her move. Sally's 9-year-old grandson, Paul, came to mind. Maybe he wanted some help organizing his bedroom before his big birthday sleepover party. 2 good freebie prospects to try out her organizing skills on. She enjoyed creating out of seeming chaos because she could see the result instead of getting caught up in the mess. This new idea seemed to fit her perfectly. Now, what about her cooking gift? How could she give of this? In her early 20s, she was introduced to natural foods and delved into understanding their benefits on her body and the impact on her mental attitude. Mental health was paramount to her because of the abuse she endured as a child. It was quite clear that what she ate affected what she thought about herself and how she saw herself in the world. Her food choices were guided by asking herself, would she feel empowered or depressed after she ate a particular food? It works. I wonder if the local health food store offers cooking classes. Do you think I could teach one? Do I have the courage to pull that off? I've sat through many cooking classes myself and saw how the cooking teachers presented the material. Maybe, I'll give this idea a maybe. The thought, when the teacher is ready, the students appear, popped into her head. Okay, I'll change that to I'll give it a try. I'll ask the store manager the next time I do my shopping if they're interested. I think this would classify as inspired action. The action I take when I get an intuitive idea and begin to take the first step to implement it in the world. She took hold of herself, feeling somewhat courageous. Courage is a necessary component. Oh, yeah. That sets the stage. Some of it is true, some of it is not. Anyway, thank you. So that's how she begins her journey.
Amazing.
Yes.
You may have shared this, but what inspired you to write?
My intuition.
So repeat the question for the camera.
Oh, I'm sorry. Oh, hi. R2D2. What inspired me to write the book? I have read so many books over my lifetime that have helped me, and I wanted to give back to life. It's like, oh my gosh. And I wanted to read this book. They say if you want to read a book and you can't find it, you're supposed to write it. Yeah. And so I did. Thank you for that question. That was good. So what are ways that you can experience your intuition? I can hear mine, so I hear it, and it comes through that way. Does anybody else have a way that they seem to connect with their intuition?
Yeah, it just appears. I guess I find myself alone a lot.
Yes.
So it just blows my mind when a thought comes up, and then I say thank you.
And that encourages more.
Right. Yes.
Yeah.
Correct.
Yeah.
I find when I have a decision to make, and instead of like the old me would be afraid to deal with it or be frantic about it. Now I just say, I'll know the right thing to do. When I have to make the decision, I know that I'll do the right thing because the right thing will come to me.
And the operative word for me in that sentence is right. When I say I want what is right, that connects me right in. And because I've discovered that when I do the right thing, it's what's right for everybody around me. Even if it's hard to say no, or hard to make this decision to leave my family and travel in a van. What? and I have to tell you, I said no to this idea more times than I said yes. So, what? Trip, what? But it wouldn't let me go. And so I just surrendered and I followed my intuition. And it's been I've organized clients all over the U.S., Louisiana, Texas.
Organizing what?
I'm a professional organizer,
Right.
so I have clients all over the U.S. And it's been, for it isn't giving that one receives. I give that service and I receive back so much. Well, look at the gratitude that Frankie has, and I have gratitude for her for what she's given me in my life. So the giving and receiving is so, I can't say it enough.
When you say, like, I want what is right, how do you define right? Are we
That's a
talking right
good question.
best or?
Yes. That is a very good question, and I put it in my book because I knew somebody was going to ask that. How do you know what's right? The right answer has a different feel to it. I don't know, I don't like to use the word vibration and, things like that, but there is something to it that clicks, and it brings clarity, and it brings, when you say be still and know, I want what is right, the stillness connects you with, there's no movement. It really is still. There's no emotion, there's no questioning, you just go, okay, that's what I'm supposed to do. And it just clicks you into something that gives you courage, gives you insight, it makes you want to sit up straight. It reflects your wholeness some way. I don't know how to say it any other way. I don't think there's enough words in the English language.
Yeah.
And I'm going to get a little funny here. I never hardly ever read novels. So I picked up Nora Roberts. And she has, I call those smut books. And she describes, the encounters that they have in the bedroom, So I decided that I was going to do that with how I'd experienced visions, intuition. So I embellish it with the breath, and it became part of, So it just connects you into something that is intelligent. And the intelligence has a different feel to it. It connects you with, in my second book, which is the sequel, I describe it, the one character asks Sally, how would you describe intuition? And I feel, and I don't know if it's science of mind teaching, but I have, in my experience, the totality of our spiritual being is not encased in this human body. There's more to it somewhere. And that part is what I believe intuition is. Coming to help me because I ask for help. It's the single most incredible spiritual tool that I could whip out and give to somebody. Ask for help. Not of people around you. You don't go and discuss your problems with everybody. You don't, oh my gosh, blah, 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 blah. No. I see that this needs to be done. I need help. I can't do it alone. And it comes. It might not come right away, but it comes. So, great question.
Great answer.
Thank you.
It sounds like you're saying things fall together in the best possible way.
And
that's
things
maybe
show
what
up.
you mean by right?
They just, events, they just show up out of like thin air. When you make the right decision, it's what's right for everybody. It might not feel that way in the beginning. Leaving my grandsons was really hard, but I had to come to terms that they have their own life, And right now, it doesn't involve me. There's other ways of communicating other than being there in person. Anything else?
I read on Facebook the other day, which was very beautiful and it will resonate, that, you know, when you close your eyes, and it's like when you ask for something, and you're doing a prayer, think of it as going grocery shopping. You know, I want that, and I want that, and I want that. And you make a list, and I just thought that was really clever. You know, it was like, oh, it's all it is just a shopping list. You know, on many levels.
Have you tried it?
I did, I started trying it right away.
Have you gotten anything?
Yeah, I guess, not I guess, but yeah, all kind of, well, I put it out and said, you know, this is what I need, and then things started to, you know, come in, like, you know, I got 4 phone calls for work and things like that. So it was working.
And I think that's how you build your trust muscle. You try it, and that's why I have spiritual tools. I try them.
Right.
As soon as I read a book that has amazing information, I don't know if you've heard of the book Dying to Be Me.
No.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, that book, I've read it twice. And it's about a lady.
What's her name? You know her name. Marsh.
Yeah, I can't even
What's her
say
name?
it.
Dying to
Johnny.
Be.
Oh, not Valerie.
Anita.
Anita Marjani.
Yeah. Dying to Be Me, My Journey from Cancer to Near Death to True Healing. I make reference to it in the book. And when I heard, her near-death experience was so profound, and I can't even speak. I mean, just the wisdom that's in that book, and it's in the back of my book too, so if you want to find it. But so these books that bring us these gifts of these tools, all you have to do is try it and wait and look. I always, watch in your life where you go, now that is not a coincidence. that can't be a coincidence. And it goes right into my spiritual toolbox. So,
What would you say in your 6 years of van life was the greatest gift or blessing, and what was the most challenging?
my solitude. There's a difference between loneliness and solitude. Loneliness has grief. Solitude is, I'm me. The connection is so strong. The greatest challenge is being away from my grandsons. I have 5, and the littlest is not going to know me. He's going to be 2 in May, and I've only seen him twice. But that's okay. Using the science of mind verbiage, he's where he's supposed to be, and I'm where I'm supposed to be, and I can accept that, and it's okay. But I can also feel the grief, and not.
And now there's FaceTime.
Well, we have something better. It's called Marco Polo.
Oh, okay.
Well, it's not better. It's
Marco.
Polo. It's a video chat.
Yeah.
It's adorable. They're very sweet. I love them dearly. Oh, I was going to ask another question about intuition. Darn it.
I
should have
forgot.
written it down.
Yeah, I should have too. We talked about it yesterday.
Yeah, we did.
Could I just comment? Maybe you'll think of it. So when I was a little girl and I felt like I didn't have a label for ESP, and it was a lot of things like with certain relatives. Like maybe I thought I was going to see them, or maybe I thought they were going to say something. And then now the thing that I have is I'll think about somebody that I maybe haven't thought of for like 40 years or something, and then I'll think about something else will be associated, and then somehow they call me or something happens, and it's like a rule of 3s or something.
Mm-hmm.
And I discussed these things the most with my son, because the telepathy or whatever it is, it's hard to say, oh, I knew he was going to call. But sometimes, you do have a sense of when someone close to you is gonna call you. And that's like a basic one. And then I just treat to try and develop more, because it's such a wonderful thing.
I think when those type of things happen to me, I ask more of what was I supposed, why did that happen?
Right, okay.
And bring it back to how can I be of service? Rather than to focus on trying to expand that. In the second book, I'm talking about the difference between psychic impressions and intuition, and it's something I can't quite answer completely, but for me, becoming more in tune with my intuition is a stronger desire for me. And I'm not going to question anybody's gift that they have that. It's great. It happens to me all the time, but I don't look at it as something, something out there. It's for some reason I'm supposed to know that those people are calling me, either to prepare myself or to consider how I can help them. Does that answer?
Yeah, that's part of the discussion. I appreciate it.
Yeah.
It's expanding my knowledge of it. Thank
Yeah.
you. Yeah.
You bet. And you have plenty of opportunity when you're in your solitude to hear and know things. Definitely.
I was going to say, along with intuition, which, for me is, of course, internal for us, but I took a class, I believe it was with Reverend Janice, a couple of years ago, and I remember one of the challenges, if you will, was to notice what you're noticing.
Right.
And that I started, it was work to do it until it was not work, and I still, that's a tool.
Absolutely.
It's like the intuition is internal, but notice what you're noticing. If you're walking down the street, when I walk at lunchtime.
It's in the book.
Oh, is it really?
It's in the book.
So
Noticing.
that's a big thing for me.
Oh,
because
absolutely.
You're busy, you're going about your day, a little
Yep.
overwhelmed.
Yep.
But if you notice what you're noticing, you don't know if that could be a gift.
And Lori read the most beautiful poem about words, and one of my spiritual tools is word study. Because I ask for my word, like for instance, when I was going through my divorce years ago, I asked for my word. What word can I hold on to? And I look up the meaning, and contemplation goes along with word study, so that I contemplate what is the essence of this word, and how can I plug it into what I'm going through so that I'm not emotional. I want emotional intelligence. And that's not easy when you've got a divorce. I mean, it's just not easy. But I would get these words, and I would think on them, and they would expand, and then I would know, oh, one of them was the opposite of jealousy. Praise. So I began to, whenever I felt jealous, I immediately would feel something to praise. I would notice something to praise in relation to the divorce. It really, and change of attitude is another one of the spiritual tools in the book. When you change your attitude by using these words, so you begin to speak the signs of mind. It's cool.
I have a question. You were talking about intuition coming from within, and I think of what comes from this, I call the spiritual world. Could it be a person that passed on, or other people that are guiding you? Because I believe that other people are guiding some of it, my life, and my putting thoughts in my head about things. So I was just curious, is that another piece for you? Because you were talking about it being more internal, the thoughts coming from you.
That's a great question. It happens to me too, where I get messages from my loved ones. I don't call that intuition though. That is a message from my loved one. And it's, we're all one anyway, right? I mean, I can only understand it this much, and there's so much. So that just proves to me that there's help comes in many forms, and that they're here to help us, and absolutely. but I wouldn't call that intuition. But that's me. Ask, and that's what Sally does. She asks questions, the hard questions, to herself in meditation. So you could ask, I want to know the truth about these messages I'm getting from beyond. You know, and to ask, what's my word concerning this? Is it guidance? Is it help? Is it assistance? Why am I getting this?
Yeah, because I've also experienced that, what you said with words. I could be reading something at the same time I'm watching something on television, and the same word connect in the same instant. So then I sit back. I used to get annoyed by it. Then I started making a list of it because I thought, well, this is happening too much now. These words were coming in. And then I started asking what the word meant.
Good.
So to try to get an understanding of why it was just so in sync, you know? And there were just words that weren't everyday words, you know, say coincidence, or, you know, that's not a word we always use, right? So it could be a word that I was meant to hear, but it wasn't an everyday word like
Acquiesce. That was one of mine.
oh, okay.
I didn't know what that word meant. I had to look it up.
Yeah, so that fascinates me. I'm still fascinated by how the spirit moves and comes and gives us words or
write about
images
it.
or
Write them down and write about it.
yeah.
Make it a writing exercise. Write a whole story about the word acquiesce. What happens.
That's good.
A word that has become so very important for me is listen.
Oh,
So it's become what my meditation is.
yes.
And I believe we're all part of spirit. I'm this manifestation of spirit, and I'm here for some reason.
Beautiful.
And if I listen to my soul, not listen to out there, but listen to my soul, as I said, and I don't know what it is I'm supposed to know yet, but I keep listening. Maybe that's it forever. I should write it down all the place. Listen, listen, listen.
Exactly. Exactly. And in the back of one of the last chapters, she what is the language of my soul? She asked. They went. Her and her friend go to a church service because she's having a hard time with. One of the characters is having a hard time supporting her friend who has an alcoholic boyfriend. And she doesn't want to say, get rid of the loser. It's not very supportive, right? So they go to listen to this minister who talks about a messy path that a soul has to take sometimes. And that we're all in Earth School, and that we're all playing these roles, but we just forgot that we're actors. And he could be nailing his best performance as an alcoholic. And doesn't it feel good to say, bravo, instead of, you're a loser, And so it's just a way of shifting your thinking and your perspective about being more compassionate. So thank you for that. Listening is so important.
I'd like to hear more about travel and the birdhouses. Do you make them as you travel?
Yes.
While she's driving. Just kidding. Just kidding.
My daughter calls it road porn. I'm walking along and I go, oh, look at that. And I walk with a bag. So one time I was driving in Alabama, and I literally did one of these, because there was some cotton that obviously had blown off the truck that had been harvested, and I whipped in there, and I didn't care. There were cars zipping by me. I'm like, oh, cotton.
You don't have one with cotton.
No, I have that
sold
one.
it.
I can go get it if you want to see it.
Talk
but
about
She
that.
has it.
I have it.
So
I'll get it.
in different parts of the country, I have, my favorite place, I'm originally from Michigan, so my Mecca is Lake Superior. I don't know if you've ever been to Lake Superior. It is the mother of water. And so I gather rocks when I go so that I can, have some pretty rocks. Should I have, these are Maine coastal rocks. Oh, yeah, here's one. The rocks are just so unique from Lake Superior. They have like marbled, yeah. So I made that one, and I put the cotton as the border.
And talk about synchronicity, I have a beautiful photograph of my boyfriend and I standing in front of a wall made of stones just like that, which is why I chose this birdhouse as mine.
So I buy the birdhouses at, Joann Fabrics or, I don't know if it's Joann Fabrics, which I hope they don't go out of business, and the Dollar Tree, so I can just gather all along. I made mushrooms out of the branch in the top of an acorn.
Delightful.
And Fernando he showed me his stuff. It's just
Yes.
stunning. He whipped out an owl, a black walnut hull. Those, I make them as owls. And the pussy willows are from New Hampshire. So yeah, I gather things from all over the country. It's just something to do.
She picked up a huge piece of bark yesterday on the towpath, like this big, and carried it to the car. 2 pieces.
I can't help it. I just love it. And the feeling you get when you're creating, all of us who create, is so amazing. It's addictive.
It is.
That's kind of not the right word. It just feels so good.
It's part of who you're meant to be. It's part of who you're meant to be.
Yes, and I do cook. I am writing. Book 2 will have recipes because this character's now writing a cookbook because I didn't want to do it. So she's writing a cookbook for nomads. As she's now literally on the road and describing. So it's going to be a trip book, a travel book, because I've been to so many places. I've been to the Outer Banks. I've been to the statue in South Dakota, the gal. It's not coming to my mind right now. The Dignity statue. I've been to Arizona, camping with the nomads at the Nomad Convention. You haven't lived to camp in the desert, because there's nothing there. There's no cell phone towers. You're completely on your own, and the dreams are lucid. Wow. It's very intense. I mean, I woke up many times going, talk about communicating with our dearly departed. Whoa!
Hello.
Yes, exactly. So it's going to be a travel book, a cookbook, and a spiritual novel.
And she's a great cook.
How do you cook in your van?
Oh, very carefully. With a one burner butane stove. And I only have, I kid you not, this much space to cook in. So I've learned, being a professional organizer, I've learned how to cook meticulously with putting things back immediately, and one-pot meals are the way to go. You save butane, you save wash water. I don't have running water in my van. I mean, I chose not to have these things, and I don't want electricity, so I'm not around anything electric, which there's something to be said to that.
I just want to ask you a question about your cooking odyssey, cooking small. So how long did it take you before you had kids? So like after the kids are gone, you still kind of shop for that amount of people, but you had to go from cooking for yourself and kids to cooking for one burner. So how long did that take you to get your brain focused on it?
I love leftovers. If I don't have to cook the next day, yay! So I still cook as if I'm cooking for that many. And
You have a
just
refrigerator?
Hmm?
You have a refrigerator?
I have a Yeti cooler.
You have a what?
A Yeti cooler. It's a really good
Yeti.
quality cooler, and I get ice every 3 days when I'm traveling in the summer. It's just an expense that I just put in. And camping with the nomads in Arizona was amazing. This gentleman from South Dakota pulled a stage so that the musicians that are there, they'd light a big campfire, and the musicians would just start coming. And before you know it, you're hearing a concert from a kid from Canada playing his guitar, and just, I mean, it was the most amazing experience. But I was afraid first, you know, I didn't know if I could trust these people, I didn't know if I could sit in the dark as a woman traveling alone, you know, so my intuition, and a couple of times I had to leave where I was at because something wasn't right, so you listen, again, your word, listen.
We have to start a caravan, no pun intended. Caravan, all of us.
Oh,
Right?
caravan.
Caravan of us in our vans.
Do you have one too?
No,
Oh.
when I was younger, my family had, but I'm just saying,
Wouldn't that be fun?
wouldn't that be fun? Other people doing it. You meet up with a lot of people, right, in their vans?
I tend to stay to myself.
Oh.
I'm careful. I have what's called shopper face. And I've had no instances. I don't look anybody in the eye. I just look around. I'm extremely careful. And you know, I'm not like, wow, hi, how are you? No, way open. No, I'm careful. I've traveled enough. I've already been to all 48 contiguous states before I got my van. So traveling has always been something I've done. And a woman traveling alone, I have nothing on my van. I have no fan. I have no solar panels. I have no bumper stickers. I got rid of my personalized plate. So which my last name is Lynn, my plate was Travelin. And I got rid of that. So when I pull up,
So you were on
Anonymous.
anonymous.
when I pull up, I look like a delivery van. And that's what I want. And now that I'm in New Hampshire, I can't have my tinted windows anymore. So I have to go have that removed.
So did you convert your own van, or did you buy it converted? Like, did you do work on the van, or did you already have it?
Did you spend money on the van?
That part of the book is true. I literally sat down, and I still have the text message on my phone to this day. I need help outfitting my van. And I kid you not, it was maybe 5 or 10 minutes later, bing, a text message from a friend I had just shown my van to the night before. It read, my husband wants to build out your van. He thinks it would be fun. He's only going to charge you for supplies.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, that's
It was huge. And I designed it and he built it out. And I bought it completely brand new. It's a 2018 Ram ProMaster, low top, or medium top. So I can stand up in it, but I can't have a pretty floor. I can't have a beautiful ceiling. You know, you see all these build outs, so they look like they're gorgeous. Mine is a homemade build. You know, I've got a container store. I could be a container store advertisement. I've got the Elfish drawer systems under there. I've got my Yeti cooler as a custom drawer. It slides in and out. I made all the bedding. When you have such a small space, you want things to be all matched, so your eyes aren't going like that, you know, going from paisley to stripes. So it just all flows and matches. And I found Cracker Barrel is my friend because they allow overnight parking. My fun, I'm thrifty, not cheap, is to find free parking. I'll pay for camping when I'm stopped, but I don't want to pay to park and sleep the night. So Cracker Barrel allows you to park overnight. And I always support them. I can't eat their food because I'm a natural food person. So I go into their store and I buy something to support them. And I also pick up garbage outside, you know, that is on the ground to give back. And they have this quilt that says, be still and know that I am God. And I had looked at that and just, I couldn't justify it because I loved my bedding that I had. And when I landed at my daughter's last year, I said, I'm buying the dark thing. So I have this.
That was at Cracker Barrel?
Cracker Barrel.
Oh, yeah, that's right, they have those.
So it's a big quilt that says, be still and know that I'm God. I've got the shams, the pillows.
Oh my goodness.
So that's what I do.
That's great.
So you have to have fun with it.
What are your plans for this next year?
I knew that question was coming. What is my end result? Sally's dealing with that in the second book.
Okay, so we'll have to wait. Here we go. Okay.
We're good. We, it's
Figure it out before she gets.
1:25. We have till 2, but you don't have to stay till 2.
Oh, are there any other further questions? Because we can continue on having a happy hour or whatever. I don't drink alcohol.
Do you go to movies?
Very rarely. That's
I
another.
just saw the movie called Unbreakable Boy. Wow. It's a true story. Go and see it. I saw it on Friday with my granddaughter. And it's about a little boy who they found out that he's autistic. And that movie, since I've watched the movie, my emotions are just overwhelmed and I can't seem to snap out of it. I'm just so weepy the whole time. And then you're talking about, you know, how certain parts of the events, you know, brings you to knowing. You know, like you'll think of something and you're not sure, you know, what that meant. And it's just been this flood. And then I wasn't sure if I was gonna come today. And then I realized, oh, I'm a part of this. And I like, oh my goodness. And then, you know, and here I am because of the movie.
It stirred you up.
It stirred me to, that I wasn't gonna stay, and then I go, I'm gonna stay.
Well, thank
It was
you.
just like, I'm gonna stay.
Thank you. Time to take a pause. Yeah.
Unbreakable Boy.
That brings up a point in my head, is that the way to really connect with your intuition is to spend time alone. And with no music, no television, no games, and just know it's your best friend in the whole world. There isn't a love that loves you more than that connection. You haven't. Thank you all
That's a
for
great
coming.
one, that's for sure. Nobody loves you more than yourself.
Any burning questions before she finishes?
How much is the book?
Oh yeah, how much is the book? And
Oh,
tell
I'm
the deal
sorry.
with the birdhouse.
Oh, the book is 21, but if you buy a birdhouse, it's 25 for both. keep my fun going.
And the bigger ones are,
Oh, well, Fernando bought the big one, so the owl condo is 50.
the condo is 50. You good? Everybody good?
I just have 2 more questions, because I'm fascinated by, I've always been fascinated by the van life. Do you, are you traveling year round? And when you plan your trips, are you getting it from, like how do you plan your trips?
Good grandsons and
questions.
family are in Colorado, because that's where I really am from. And then I've lived there for most of my adult life. And my hometown is in Michigan, and I've discovered the flea market circuit in Florida, which I lived in Florida for 19 years. And my daughter's in Dover, so I kind of do this. And so I just had an old boss of mine just contacted me through LinkedIn. She wants to hire me to organize, and she's in Fort Worth, Texas. So we'll have to have a conversation about how am I going to get to Fort Worth. So
that's your next journey right there.
I'm not sure. I have to talk with her to see what she needs and to make sure we're a fit. But when you're organizing, you need to be able to catch the person's vision. And if it doesn't jive, it won't work.
And what was the other question? If you travel year round?
Oh, I do. I haven't had any home base in 6 years. I'm almost embarrassed to say that. But it's just what I've done.
You're a free spirit.
Have you
I
ever
don't know if
thought
we
of
should be-
having a pet to travel?
No. I couldn't deal with the odor. I can't even deal with mine.
Have you have a toilet?
Get a pet rock.
I think
Pet
maybe
rock.
this is,
Pet rock.
do you have a pet who travels with you?
I do.
Cool.
Most banners, did anybody see the movie Nomadland?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, you know about the bucket method?
Yes.
It's, some people have
Compostable.
Thank you, I can't say that word.
Compostable.
Compostable toilets. And I have my own thing that I have morphed into over the years, and it's sustainably done and embarrassing to talk about.
Oh, nobody poops here.
No,
They don't even know what the word means.
Yeah, it makes me,
Can you spell
I can
that?
feel myself getting red just even thinking
So
about it.
what?
But it does
Because we all wanna
happen,
go
poop
through it.
happens.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, where do you shower?
Planet Fitness,
Oh, smart.
Right, they're everywhere.
everywhere. I've got a nationwide membership.
That's part of your solution.
And now here's my number one rule. I never show up to anybody's house and say, can I do my laundry? Can I have a shower? Can I, I don't do that. And when I discovered that I have a Jackery battery station, that's where I power, that's the only thing that I have to power. I charge my cell phone when I'm driving or in this power station. It also only goes up to 250 watts. So I have little tiny lights that I can plug in. I forgot to charge it before I left. I thought that I had charged it, but I didn't. But I didn't walk into Frankie's house and go, oh, Frankie, can I charge my...
Right.
I waited till like the second or third day, because I just don't want to be that type of person. I like to be responsible and to show people that you can do this without mooching off others. You know, the only thing I like to mooch off is a driveway to park in. That's really very sweet.
You can park in my driveway anytime.
Oh,
Shower at my house anytime.
that's very appreciated, I can't tell you. And people are always trying to give me a bed. And I say, no, my bed is my home. In a van. Why would I want to bring
It's a
out-
vacation.
Why would I? No, it's not.
No?
It's too much work. I got to bring in all my pajamas,
Oh, right,
my
right,
toothbrush, my...
right.
It was just too
Right.
cold the last
Yeah,
few
I
days.
had-
She had to come inside.
I had to acquiesce
Yes.
and go into...
Good.
But I tell them, and they're always trying to give me their towels, their sheets. But when you're traveling like that, you need your own smell. So I actually brought in my sheets from the van to put down where I was sleeping in Frankie's house. It helps the inner child to feel safe. You've got, and in the book, she talks about dealing with, I don't know if you've ever heard of voice dialogue or the psychology of the selves. I wanted to introduce the concept because our inner critic and our inner child are so important and so prevalent in our psyche, and we don't know it. So my inner child needs to smell my own fragrance to feel comfortable and to feel safe. Because safety is very important.
Did you ever, a question, so did you ever find yourself like without a parking space, so you had to park in the Planet Fitness parking lot overnight and maybe with your little work area? No? Oh, she's a good plan.
Walmarts are my friends.
Yeah.
But now more and more cities, because people are silly. In their silliness, they whip out their grills in the Walmart parking lot. And it's like, don't do that. We're losing our ability to park for free because people are leaving garbage. They're doing stuff like that. And city ordinances are saying, no, we're not having it. No. So it's getting a little bit more challenging for me, but so far it's worked, and I'm so grateful. But
Is there a website for Walmart that they go to that you can say this is what's happening because you're leaving garbage?
I don't know in that way, but I always call before I go. And I say, my schmeal is, do you allow one night, that's the operative word, one night, overnight parking in your lot? And they'll say, yes, over to the left, far away from the entrance. And Sally's going to talk about that in the second book. I'm going to actually talk about being a nomad in the second book because she's out there now. She didn't know in the beginning, and I didn't know in the beginning, that she was going to be a vanner. That was not in her. She was just following her plan to become debt-free and to implement her gifts to give back and to receive. And then all of a sudden, she's gotten so far with her healing. She had to heal up some crap. There's some healing in here that might, that she had to go through. And in this, I've lost my train of thought.
And that's why.
Oh, about the parking of one night.
So she's now telling you what it's like to be a vanner. And there's certain apps on your phone that are for free parking that you can download. There are freecampsite.net is a really good resource for where you can park for free. But always call, because I drove all the way to this one spot and there was no parking.
Oh, no.
And then one time I was in the Upper Peninsula of Michigan, which if anybody's been there, it's like rural everywhere. Nothing is there. And I got a gut feeling. And I heard crime scene. And I went, oh my God, it's already dark. I'm in my pajamas.
Oh.
So I just, and that's true in the book, because it's in this book. I simply said, I will do whatever it takes to maintain my safety. If I have to get up and drive, I will do that. So I committed to myself to do what was right for myself. And I said, then the idea came, move across the lot. And so I did, and the feeling was gone, and I slept like a baby.
Oh,
Good.
So it's not for everybody.
It's not for the faint-hearted.
You have to have courage, the courage to follow. But it all comes with one trip at a time. You can't, just my first night, I slept in my parking lot in my van just to see what it was like. And what did I need, and what worked and what didn't work.
You're courageous.
very.
It came one experience at a time.
Thank you.
Well, thank you.
Well, let's give her a big hand. So.